I'm Michelle.
And I'm Lucy.
Welcome to a Cameo episode. These episodes of various lengths about people we may or may not have mentioned before will be slotted in between other episodes and may or may not fill in the gaps and enhance our understanding of the age. Or our bafflement at the age.
And today, Richard Grey, Earl of Kent. Ooh. Third Earl of Kent. Richard Grey, along with the Duke of Buckingham and the Earl of Northumberland, strutted around Henry's court dressed up to the nines with very little to do apart from to look good and uphold the English reputation for jousting.
For a second, I was worried you were going to say strutted around in the buff. I thought this was going to be an Emperor's New Clothes episode for a second.
No, quite the opposite. They weren't given responsible positions. They were just there to give the court a bit of glamour.
That's it.
Pretty much. And as far as Richard Grey, 3rd Earl of Kent, was concerned, it was just as well he wasn't given any power because he'd be rubbish at it, as he was with everything else he tried his hand at.
You'd be better off with peacocks. They cost less and they look pretty.
Yes. Yes, but Richard didn't go, meow, all the time.
I actually don't mind that noise. I know some people can't stand the squirching of them, but I don't mind it.
Somewhere I garden, somebody's got peacocks somewhere around because I can hear them. But yeah, it's a nice noise.
I read a news article about Surrey, which is about 35 minutes away from me, that they have a peacock
Not
problem.
Our Surrey.
No, our Surrey. BC Surrey. Yeah, somebody got a bunch of peacocks and then basically just let them loose. Now Surrey's got a... Yeah. Surrey community in the Sullivan Heights neighborhood has long grappled with a significant problem caused by a large population of feral peacocks.
Oh, if you're going to have feral something, it's not bad, is it?
Leads to community conflict and property damage.
People always find something to complain about, don't they?
Yes.
G.W. Bernard of the University of Southampton described Richard as, quote, a vivid example of a man smaller than his office, unquote.
Ooh,
and given that
ouch.
he didn't really have an office, that was... He also said, quote, his dealings with Henry VII, however, suggest the king wished to maintain a strong and well-endowed nobility, unquote. Well, that's not what Thomas Penn says in The Winter King.
No.
He reckons Henry trussed Grey up like a kipper.
Yes.
The Grey family owned estates in Bedfordshire, Buckinghamshire and various other shires and Wales. And they'd been clever. They'd married well, they'd bought land, they'd made the right political decisions. For instance, Edmund Grey, Richard's grandfather, had switched from Lancastrians to Yorkists at the Battle of Northampton in 1460. And this had paid off.
Yes.
Just 3 years later, he was in Edward IV's council, and he became Lord Treasurer, and then he was given the earldom of Kent. And that obviously didn't scupper his chances with Henry VII, since he was still Commissioner of the Peace in 1490 when he died. And he left estates worth a great deal of money. Ooh. His son, George, held the title from 1490 to 1503. He was married to Anne Woodville, sister of Elizabeth Woodville.
Oh.
They had a son called Richard, who, as G.W. Bernard says, is the villain or the fool of the story that follows.
Ah.
George's second wife was Catherine Herbert, with whom he had another son, Henry. Henry is the sensible son, and Richard
is not.
His foolish son. Richard became Earl in 1503. By 1506, he was hopelessly in debt.
That never bodes well. You start making some very seriously bad decisions.
You won't believe how bad his decisions are.
Oh, dear.
He was an obsessive gambler.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. He'd been borrowing from Ludovico della Fava, the one who was up to his eyeballs in the alum trade.
Oh, okay.
To pay him off, Richard became hopelessly, and I think hopelessly is a word I will be using quite often, hopelessly embroiled with other courtiers to whom he sold off his properties left, right and centre.
Oh, what an idiot.
And he wasn't above selling off his wife's jointure or selling off land more than once.
Oh, my goodness. So he really has just failed miserably.
Yes, he really does.
Yeah.
I'm not that bothered about him selling off the land more than once because he is being ripped off by everybody.
Oh.
So
He's stupid as well.
Utterly. And you feel sorry for his brother, Henry, who's younger. I mean, if Henry had been the older one...
He would have had the money and everything would have been fine. I will give you an allowance to put her away.
He not only sold properties, he practically gave them away. The courtiers he had dealings with were Charles Somerset, Lord Herbert, Sir John Hussey, Sir Henry Wyatt, Giles Lord Dobney, Edmund Dudley, and Richard Empson.
Oh,
so these were mainly new men bringing down the old nobility.
Oh, no.
For instance, Charles Somerset received Simpson, Great Brick Hill, and Stoke Hammond in Buckinghamshire, Goodswell, Foxley, Bordeswell, and Sperham in Norfolk, and Roydon and Badmansfield in Suffolk, for which Somerset paid 180 quid.
Oh, my goodness.
Quote, and also some other sums of money, causes and considerations, unquote, which I presume means that Somerset may have paid off some of his debts.
Holy cow.
But whatever it is, he did get a bargain. To Sir John Hussey, he sold estates in Huntingdonshire and Northamptonshire for 160 quid. Except that Richard held back lands worth £20 a year for the use of Edmund Dudley, by which I presume he means paying off bonds and recognizances.
Oh, my goodness.
He went on to sell more estates to Hussey for £1,100 and the paying off of debts of various merchants. But there are a lot of estates, so it sounds like a lot of money, but he was getting a lot for his
If I was his brother,
bucks.
I would probably find a way to take him to court.
I don't know. I won't go through all the transactions. There were very many. And later, Henry Grey, Richard's sensible brother, said that Richard sold one estate to Lord Dobney for 2 bolts of cloth and a horse with a saddle.
Oh, my goodness.
So not only is he getting rid of these things, he's not getting... He
He's
needs
not
the money.
getting anything back to pay off
No.
any of the debts. What an
He
idiot.
really is an unbelievably foolish person.
I feel sorry for his wife, too.
Yeah. One of Richard's other creditors was Henry VII himself. In May 1504, he owed the crown £700, so Henry hung on to 3 estates until the debt was paid. The debt was never paid. And if you're feeling sorry for Richard, which in a way I am...
No, I'm feeling sorry for Henry and his wives.
Yes. But he has been completely outmanoeuvred, but, he is a complete pillock.
Yes.
Well, the next event might wipe away any sympathy which you obviously haven't got. I think it's a Moctezuma all over again. I'm thinking, they're ripping him off. But then, he's got it coming. His father, George, had bought the wardship of a girl called Elizabeth Trussell. And as we've heard with wardships, the bringing up of the child with the use of the property and money was sometimes separate from the right to marry them off.
Yes.
But George had got both for 4,500 marks.
Okay.
And when he died, he still owed 1,800 marks. I do wish they'd make their minds up. Young Elizabeth was left in the care of Catherine, George's wife, and it was intended she should marry the sensible brother, Henry,
Okay.
for which she must have been greatly relieved, I should think. Which one do I... Oh, good.
Yes, I'm not going to be destitute.
However, Richard was annoyed about this. He was the older son. Why should his little brother get the girl? So he abducted her, and the documents are rather coy at this point, but he must have raped her.
Oh, my God.
Richard was fined 2,500 marks for this, adding to his debts. And the interesting thing here is that the brother Henry was seen as the real victim of all this. He was to have the girl. He obviously couldn't have her now, because she was...
Damaged goods.
damaged goods. Edmund Dudley wrote, quote, "One Grey, the Earl of Kent's brother, ought in conscience to be well recompensed for the heir Trussell, which he should have had by the will of his father," unquote. There's no mention at any of this in that it was pretty grim for poor Elizabeth. It's all poor Henry. On the 19th of May 1505, Richard surrendered the wardship, which he didn't legally have anyway, and in return he was pardoned £1,000 of that fine, provided that Elizabeth Trussell didn't die within 4 years. I couldn't work out why that stipulation would be there. I don't know. I thought you might have some thoughts. Why would they put that in?
I have no idea. That's such a random... The only thing I can think of is they're relating that death to her possibly getting pregnant or syphilis.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
You gave her a venereal disease that killed her?
Oh. No, I don't know.
I don't either.
Richard was getting more and more enmeshed in debt. In July 1506, he owed the Crown £1,683, 6 shillings and 8 pence.
Oh, dear.
So there was the 1,000 marks for the Trussell wardship, £700 was to do with his father's lands, and 400 marks for his mother's lands.
Time to sell your title.
Well, soon after, the king took 2 of his estates, presumably because Richard had defaulted on the payment.
Probably.
And the following May, he was clobbered for 4,000 marks for recognizances. As surety for this, the Crown took properties in Bedfordshire, Northamptonshire and Wales. In 1507, Richard was bound over for recognizances for £10,000. And as far as I know, that's for non-payment of the previous debts. So every time he can't pay, he gets clobbered for more. And as part of this recognizance, Richard agreed with Henry that he was not to sell, lease or grant any of his lands, nor to grant offices or annuities, nor to sell any growing timber without the king's consent. He was to have nothing to do with the running of his estates. People would be appointed to run his estates, and he was to let them get on with it. He wasn't to meddle or pester them at all. Just keep out of it. And he was on parole. He had to show himself in the king's household every day and was told not to leave without the permission of the king.
Oh, my goodness. They really think you're ridiculous.
Yes. Just, you can keep your nice clothes, just wander about, look pretty.
Yes. Zero trust here.
Yes. Henry was determined to see a return on these recognizances. I'm going to make sure your states are run properly and they make a profit, and then you can pay me back. And the only way your estates will be run properly is if you're nowhere near them.
The only way you're going to get paid back.
Richard complained, as well he might, that he'd been tricked by Empson and Dudley. I was waiting for you to say, oh no, surely not.
No.
No. They told him there was no hurry for the repayment instalment, which really ought to have run alarm bells with Richard.
Yeah, especially with those two.
Yeah, they told him sending in the paperwork, quote, should incur no indemnity for non-payment thereof at the said time appointed, unquote.
Oh.
Relax,
That's
don't
like,
worry.
Don't pay for it today. Pay for it on the never, never. A little bit a month, and at the end we'll just hammer you with interest for the full amount and take everything.
It's almost as if you've met these people before.
Yeah. Yep.
The day of the repayment arrived. Richard relaxed and didn't worry. And, as you say, Empson said, you didn't pay, now you owe the king the full amount. Now.
Oh, and the payment on the never, never is something that's a saying that was big during the Edwardian, Victorian, Georgian times.
Is it that early?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have that saying over here.
Oh, right, okay.
Interest-free payments. Yeah, pay it on the never, never, never.
Too late, Richard realised he'd put his trust in the wrong people. He complained that Empson and Dudley, quote, showed that it should not require so great haste, and so delayed the matter by their subtle minds, unquote.
Subtle. All you had to do was look at what they were doing to everybody else.
Yes.
Really?
And honestly, he had enough history in this debt malarkey to know that not paying at the time we meant to makes things much worse.
Yes.
There's no point. Don't listen to Dudley and Empson
No.
saying, oh, I don't know. But the next instalment of Richard's payment was also late, or so it seemed. However, Richard's sensible brother Henry said that Richard had paid it on time. However, Empson and Dudley just sat on it until the due date was passed.
Not a surprise. Not at all a surprise.
He did say this later, after Empson and Dudley had fallen from grace, so maybe, he was trying it on a little bit, saying, what he did this time? He did. Mm-hmm. But it does sound like the sort of thing they'd do. Well, Richard was married to Margaret Dawes, and he had used her 2,000 mark dowry to try and redeem some of his properties. But soon he was even deeper in debt. And we even hear of him pawning some of his clothing, which must have been a huge wrench for him, because he did like his clothing.
Yes, yes. I am a peacock.
Yes. I've got the brain capacity of a peacock as well. Thomas Penn seems to imply that Henry was keen to bring this man down. However, G.W. Bernard disagreed, since in 1505 he made him the Knight of the Order of the Garter. But I think that was just an indication of what Richard was there for. You know, sit on a horse, look pretty, act chivalrous, make me look good.
Yes, because you will never make yourself look good.
A later Grey said that this came from Henry's, quote, perceiving that he, Kent, would utterly consume his inheritance and undo himself and his posterity forever. Quote,
hasn't he already done that?
Pretty much, I think, yes. But maybe the Garter thing was to make him sort of think, oh, perhaps I am someone important, perhaps I ought to buckle down and do this thing properly. I don't know. An indenture in 1507 implies that Henry was trying to protect Richard from the vultures who were circling.
Really?
Quote, perceiving and knowing the dangers that would be the confusion and the utter undoing of the said Earl of Kent and his heirs, the said king, of his benign goodness, having true knowledge that the most part of his lands were in the possession and holding of other men, made such a decree and a final determination with Giles Lord Dobney, Charles Somerset, Lord Herbert, Richard Empson, Knight, and with divers other for the redeeming of the said Earl of Kent's land, unquote. So this indenture is implying that Henry was so shocked at the activities of the men of the court that he decided to help this gullible idiot out.
It makes me think of some people that I've met that are really, really, really unintelligent, but they're so kind and charismatic. You can't be mad at them.
I suppose he's not hurting anybody, really, apart from his own family. He's the one getting hurt all the time.
Yeah.
So maybe there was some sympathy for him. Well, Henry called these men before him and asked them how much they had given the Earl of Kent for the land they got off him. Quote, the king, upon great considerations and discharge of their consciences, indioined them, don't know what that means, to grant him their ill-gotten land, unquote. And the Greys would later say that the king, quote, intended finally to resolve the whole inheritance again to the said Earl of Kent, with a reasonable recompense to the purchasers, unquote.
Really?
But it seems that it was Dudley and Empson who scuppered the king's saintly plan, and the money didn't get back to the purchasers, and Kent, although he got a few estates back, certainly didn't get them all. And Thomas Penn said that the king gave the purchasers two options: either hand the estates over to the crown, or pay the crown a large sum of money and keep the property. Either way, Richard doesn't get a look in, and either way, Henry wins.
Yes. So it's not saintly, it's just, let's make it look a little more legitimate and be a little less of a baddie.
And I get lots of money, either way. Either they sell me their properties, or they just give me money.
Yeah.
But it's not your property, it's Richard's.
Yes.
Or it was. Richard seemed to think that Henry was on his side against the creditors.
Of course he did. Henry was great at that.
But we know that Dudley and Empson did what they did on Henry's command.
Yes.
And it can't be denied that Henry made a huge profit out of Richard's disaster.
Yeah.
And maybe Henry VII had been protecting Richard, since once the king died, the vultures started circling again. And Richard sold off some of the properties the king had got back for him.
Oh, my God.
Many of them to the same people as before. Although not Dudley and Empson, obviously.
No, because they're dead.
They were no longer in a position to purchase property.
That's one way to put it. They had gone under.
Richard was described as, quote, as unmeet to govern his estates as a natural idiot, unquote.
There you go.
Henry, the sensible brother, later tried to get some of it back, but without much success, and Richard's heirs were still petitioning James I and VI to get the properties back.
Oh, wow.
When Richard died, his family's inheritance was pretty much non-existent. So one man had brought down what it had taken 2 centuries to build up.
Jeez, which is very common. You get one heir that's a gambler, usually a gambler, who spends it all.
He can't have been a very good gambler, can he?
No.
I mean, to gamble away that amount, people do it now, don't they? You're stunned by the amount that people just gambled away.
Yeah, but then is there such a thing as a good gambler? Other than a card shark? Is there a good gambler? I don't know. We have poker tournaments in Las Vegas that are televised, and I'm like, why are people watching this? Who cares? How is this exciting? It's a bunch of people usually wearing glasses and hats to prevent you from seeing their expression. And then, yeah, it's just boring.
Yeah, watching people playing cards. But anyway, that was Richard Earl of Kent. I don't know what could be said about him, really.
The fact that they call him a natural idiot makes me think he actually was mentally deficient. Visibly mentally deficient. Which then makes the whole thing more egregious.
It makes it tragic if that's the case.
That people, instead of trying to help along a poor guy who honestly could not understand what was going on, they just took full advantage and wiped out the family fortune.
Yeah. Oh, maybe he lived from day to day, didn't look ahead. I was wondering, does he spend all night lying in bed thinking, oh, God, and I owe that one out. Oh, God, what am I going to do? Or whether he just bounced along.
Oh, it'll be fine. I'll get it back tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll just sell Buckinghamshire. It'll be fine. I wouldn't sleep for months.
Neither would I.
Anyway, that's what happens if you get to the wrong side of, well, virtually everybody.
Yeah.
I was going to say Dudley and Empson, but no, everyone came in for the kill.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Goodbye.